Hello and welcome to a live episode of Garibaldi Red, the Nottingham Forest podcast from Nottinghamshire Live. We are streaming on Facebook and I believe YouTube at the moment, although obviously you can listen back to this later on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, watch it on YouTube and all the usual stuff. But if you're watching it on Facebook, as we speak, you can drop questions and comments in and we'll chat about them amongst ourselves as we look back on the game last night, Forest 2, Swansea 2. And I'm joined, as usual, by Sarah Clapson, our Reds correspondent. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, Matt. How are you?
Hello. I'm well. I'm all right, thank you. Is it, if I say terrible, bad first half, good second half, terrible referee, I'm hoping you either agree or disagree, but certainly expand on that. What did you make of it last night?
I think that pretty much sums it up. The referee was terrible. Forest didn't start well at all. They were really slow to get going. Obviously conceded the early goal, got back in it through Sammy Amiobi, but then just never kind of built on that really. They were really slow and leggy in the first half, didn't really offer too much. Swansea got back in front. Not sure it was a penalty, and even less sure that the penalty should have counted when he took it, but it did. Second half, Forest were a lot better. Another brilliant goal by Sammy Amiobi. He was really on fire yesterday. He was really good. They did look to get the win. They made some attacking substitutions. They did look a bit better. They had a bit more about them, but just couldn't find that breakthrough really. I still think a point isn't a bad result. Yes, they would have wanted the win because that would have confirmed the playoff place, but a point against a good Swansea team, it isn't bad in the scheme of things. And they've still got 2 more matches now to make sure the playoff place. They're just about there, albeit not officially, but hopefully if they can get a win on Saturday, then it'll mean a bit more of a relaxed final game.
Yeah, before we talk about the game itself, if we're looking at the league table, just so people are up to speed, Forest are 5 points clear of Millwall and 6 clear of Swansea. They've got the goal difference of +12. Millwall's is +4 and Swansea's +5. So it's kind of like that extra point unless something catastrophic happens or Millwall or Swansea go a bit mental goals-wise. So it's virtually a 6-point cushion, which would mean Forest just need that draw. The form's not really that pretty. Win, draw, loss, draw for Forest isn't great. So they obviously a point would be good, but they do need to try and take some kind of form into the playoffs, assuming touchwood they get there.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to go into the playoffs having not got a couple of wins behind you. You want a bit of momentum. You want a bit of form. You want to have something to build on. There are 2 games now coming up that Forest really will and should be looking to win. I know they've struggled a little bit sometimes against the teams towards the bottom end of the table, but if you want to do something in the playoffs, you need to go into those games and get wins from them. They need good performances. They need to get players back on form or players that are playing well, keep playing well. So really, Mooch, you mentioned last night about Joe Lolly. It was obviously his first game back after missing the weekend with an injury, and he didn't quite look fully up to speed. And if Forest want to do something, then they're going to need players like Joe Lolly on top form. Sammy Amiobi really stepped up last night, but you need some of your other big players to come through as well.
As we just look at the game then in a bit of detail, Forest started really badly and they fell behind to a good goal by Rhian Brewster. Poor Bryce Sandbury's picked a few out of his net. He's had no chance with really. But how did you rate Forest's response? They've scored with basically their first shot, didn't they? It was a good goal from Amiobi.
Yeah, it really was. Both of his goals were fantastic. I think that's the first time that Forest have come from behind to get something from a game since the West Brom match. And it's not something they've done too much this season, come from behind and get something, even less come from behind and get a win. But they really had to dig in and get something. You don't want to... they knew what it meant. They knew what was riding on the game, and they showed a bit of steel and a bit of metal and a bit of guts to come back and get something from it. Swansea are no mugs. They're a good side, and you have to play well to beat them or to get something from it. And Forest did improve in the second half, no doubt about that. First half, though, they really were not at the races. But both of Sammy Amiobi's goals were crackers. They were absolutely brilliant goals. It's two brilliant strikes. The first one was fantastic, real individual effort, showed a lot of skill and strength. And his second one was fantastic as well.
I suppose, we're not any comments yet. We might get some when we talk about the ref, I suppose. But just before we come to that penalty, Amiobi flashed one across the face, and if that had gone in, it might have changed the game. But then we got the other end, and Yates fouled IU. Was it IU? I'm not sure there was any debate about it.
It was IU. Yeah, it was IU.
I watched the highlights this morning again on the Swansea comment from the Swansea point of view, and the Welsh chaps said, "Oh, his left foot was in the area, and it's definitely a penalty." I'm not sure about that. I mean, the angle the ref was at, I don't see how he could give that penalty. What was your view from the press box or wherever you're sitting in the ground these days?
Yeah. No, I didn't think it was a penalty. It looked like it was outside the box for me. Only just, but it was, I'm pretty sure it was outside. And having seen replays and pictures, it looked like he was really hard done by Ryan Yates. Really harsh penalty against him. But it was given, and again, I'm not sure that there was a bit of dispute about the actual penalty when it came. IU took a heck of a long time to take it. There wasn't a lot that Samba could do about it when you're faced with a penalty. It's kind of, as a keeper, it's potluck really whether you save it or not. And the run-up probably didn't help him because he took forever. But he didn't get pulled up on it.
I mean, it was a good, if you're Paul Pogba and you miss like that, you look like an idiot. If you take it well and you score and Samba kind of goes the wrong way, ultimately, I suppose it's a good penalty. But yeah, I think the fault was in the awarding of it more than anything.
Yeah.
What do you think about the standard of refereeing in the Championship? We've praised and criticised this season, more criticised when you think back to West Brom. And my mind's gone blank of the previous game.
There's been a few.
Yeah, what about overall better or worse than previous years?
God, I mean, you think back to last year, and Forest had some really bad decisions go against them then. This year, it's not been great. It just seems to be so inconsistent. Last night, the referee was terrible. He was really put for both sides. I think both teams could probably have a complaint against him. There was, I think, it looked right from early on in the first half that it was never going to end up with all men on the pitch because you could see a red card coming from somewhere. There was a lot of yellow cards. There was a lot of fouls that were and then weren't given. I think both managers, I mean, Sabrina Mucci afterwards, he's quite, he doesn't like to pick out the referee or to criticise, but I think you could see that he was a bit put out by it. He didn't agree with the penalty and felt that they'd had a few decisions go against them. And Swansea felt the same. They were complaining afterwards. It was just a really poor display. I don't think trying to think if he got too many decisions right, and I can't really think of many. It really wasn't good.
Let's go into a few comments because we've had a few pile in. I mean, people moan that we talk about Carvalho a lot, but there's a lot of Carvalho comments in here. He didn't get a look in again last night, did he?
He wasn't even in the squad. Yeah, I know it's difficult. I think when you're not playing, I don't want to say you become a better player than you are, but there's no doubt about it that he's a very, very talented player. He's really skillful. On his day, he's fantastic. But this season, I'm not sure that he's quite shown fully what he's capable of. He's not quite hit the standards that he knows and we know and the manager knows that he can reach. I think part of that, I guess, is because he's not playing week in, week out. He's only coming on maybe off the bench for a few minutes here and there. So he's not getting a consistent run of games. He's not been playing in his preferred position. I think what suits him best is that number 10 role, where he's got a bit of freedom and a bit of license to roam a little bit. And he's just found himself down the pecking order. I think when you look at the form of some of the other players, he's just not managed to get a look in. And he just doesn't quite fit, I don't think, in the style of play that Forest are trying to play under Lamucci at the moment. It's tough, isn't it? I think the manager's always said throughout this season that he wants more from him, that he expects more. And whether he's not seeing that in training, I guess we don't know. We're not privy to kind of what he shows on the training pitch. You can only go off what the manager chooses. And more often than not, he's got it right in his team selection. He's got plenty of credit in the bank when it comes to that. And as much as there's been games, I think probably the Fulham game, I would have played Carvalho then, or at least brought him on the bench. There were people saying, why didn't he come on against Preston? I'm not sure that would have been the right game for him anyway, because it was a really physical, tough, bruising encounter, and that's not really his game. Same with Swansea last night, really. They were quite physical and tough. And yes, if he plays a good pass, he can unlock defences and he can create something and he can score wonderful goals. But he's just not managed to get a look in. And I don't know. You kind of... Is he going to get a look in now before the end of the season? I don't know. It's difficult. We've asked Lamucci about him. He has been asked he was asked last week before Preston where Carvalho fitted into his plans, and his answer was very telling. He didn't really. There was a lot of ways you could have perhaps approached the answer, but he just said he didn't want to talk about individual players. That was the long shot of it, and he didn't want to go into detail about it. He didn't want to specify anything about Carvalho or why he's not specifically playing or what he wants to see from him. And you have to respect him for that. If he doesn't want to talk about that situation, then I think you probably read between the lines that, and what he didn't say as much as what he did say is perhaps quite telling.
Yeah, it's a telling answer, isn't it? If you'd asked him, what do you think about Lewis Grabban getting 20 goals? I don't imagine he's going to turn around to you and say, actually, I don't want to talk about Lewis Grabban. So if he doesn't want to talk about a player who's struggling or he doesn't fancy at the moment, then, it probably says all that he can say or wants to say about Carvalho. And, if we fast forward a few weeks into the summer and Carvalho goes, then we might get a bit more information. But as it stands, he's a Forest player. Simon Myers says, the first half especially showed how reliant they are on Lolly and Cash. Let's hope they get fit. Otherwise, I'm concerned how far they can get in the playoffs. Do you think Forest are overly reliant on Lolly and Cash? Da Costa's coming in, done all right. Amiobi got a couple of goals last night. Jenkinson, has done fine from what I've seen, apart from the odd stumble, and he's struggled with injuries. What do you think about this kind of Lolly and Cash dynamic, and is it pivotal to going up?
Oh, absolutely. They're two key players without a doubt. You want both of those two on top form and fully fit and firing. I think with Forest, there's a few players that they're reliant on to produce top form if they're going to get something from games. Cash, Lolly, Amiobi, Grabban for certain, and Silva to a certain extent. If those players, when it comes to creativity, are not on top form, then beyond that, they'll struggle a little bit, you think. I'm not saying that other players can't chip in, because, like you mentioned, Da Costa, he does look bright, he does look good. Alex Mighton came on and did well last night, I thought. But that core group of players, Forest really need to perform. You look at the bench and think, who can they, I know people will say Carvalho, but who can they bring on that's going to make a difference? And outside of that group, they don't have too many options where you think, yeah, he can come on and he'll get a goal, or he'll create something, or he'll make the defence make a mistake or something. But that is a really strong group of players. They've got where they are because they've got that group who've done well. It's no service. It's no kind of disrespect to them. It's it's served them well so far, and it might well serve them further.
There's a comment from Nicholas Zanzibar Smith here, and it sort of leads on, touching on from that point. He says, we're undeniably a weaker team than Brentford, Fulham and Albion, both in form and squad quality. We need to hope the playoffs are a lottery. I sort of agree and sort of disagree with that. Definitely form-wise, Forest are struggling. I don't know if Brentford have got that much depth. I think they're kind of like Forest in the sense they've got these core key players like Ben Rama and Watkins and Janssen at the back. Fulham and Albion have definitely got bigger, stronger squads because they've got Premier League parachute money. So are we a weaker team? I actually think Forest are actually quite well set up for a playoff campaign if they can click in some kind of form.
Yeah, I think so. The playoffs are a lottery without a doubt. And you don't need, yes, it's nice to go into them with good form and good momentum, but ultimately what you've done before, it doesn't count. If you go up, they're one-off games. If you perform well on the day, I mean, across those two legs, and then in the final, then Wickham showed that you don't need to be the best team necessarily in the division to go up through the playoffs. It really is a lottery, and if Forest can play well on the day, and Lamouchi's shown that his tactics are brilliant at times, and they've got good results against the teams that are in and around the playoffs, they've got every chance. I don't think you can. I don't think you can discount them at all, regardless of what form they go into or who they're up against. I think that they'll go into it believing that they can win, and that's the one thing that you can say about this Forest squad this year is their belief, and their team spirit has taken them a heck of a long way. I think that's what really stands out in comparison to other teams. They're just one. They perform as a unit, and they all fight for each other, and that can help. It makes such a big difference.
Just a quick note that actually people can comment on this live on YouTube as well, and we'll try and monitor those if anyone wants to comment there because they're not on Facebook. There's a lot of comments on Diakabi, including one that literally just says Diakabi ! Another player we talk about a lot, but people obviously want to talk about him. I mean, he comes on for these 2-minute cameos. It must be difficult for him in the same way as Carvalho. We don't see the training, and I know he hasn't done a lot, but the manager must see something there because he keeps bringing him on. And I suppose the logic is he's quick at the end of a game. He should be able to run a fullback, but he hasn't really done it yet. But I don't know. I mean, sorry to repeat myself, but Lamouchi sees something there, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was asked about Diakabi last week, and he said very much that he thinks he's a good player, that he's got quality, that he's got something about him. He specifically said that it's confidence that he's struggling with at the moment. I think you can see that. He's had a tough time, obviously, at Huddersfield. He came to Forest, tried to get going, didn't really hit it off straight away. Obviously, lockdown came and they were without a game for 3 months. Probably didn't help him. Has come back, makes a few appearances from the bench, and it is difficult when you're a substitute, particularly when you're a lone player, I think, and you're trying to make your mark and you're trying to impress. You're coming into games and you're having to do something amazing to make people sit up and take notice of you. And there's a lot of pressure. And if you're already low on confidence, then it's going to be tough. He is quick. He can stretch defences. He can cause teams problems. It's just... It's the end product, isn't it, that's just lacking a little bit at the moment. And if he can sort that out, I think, there's something there. I think it just hasn't quite clicked for him yet, but the manager rates him, and he obviously sees more of him than we do. And I think you have to trust him a little bit on that. Diakabi hasn't quite shown what he can do yet, but people were writing off Sammy Amiobi at the start of the season. People wrote off Ben Watson last season. I think you can make snap judgments about players and not... I know we've given him a bit of a chance, but not give them a proper chance to show what they can do. And maybe he'll prove everybody wrong. There's no reason why he can't.
Yeah, if he scores the winner in the playoff final and does absolutely nothing else for Forest, then that's fine by me.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Just one other quick question before we go back to the games. I think the answer to this is no. Adoma, he can't play again this season, can he? To your knowledge? Certainly not to mine.
Yeah, no, he can't play. No, Forest have brought him back, but I think we can all speculate why. But he can't play.
Yeah, he gets the card. Just going back to the game before we come back to a few more comments. I mean, the red card, was a ridiculous tackle. And we've seen a few ridiculous tackles since the lockdown on the receiving end of Forest. I mean, he could have put Mighton out for a year there, the way studs went down the back of his Achilles. I know he was supposed to be a professional foul just to bring the lad down from a break, but that was another dangerous tackle in a game, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a shocking tackle. No doubt about that being a red card at all. Mighton was lucky to pick himself up and walk away after that. I think he was... it really wasn't a nice tackle, but it's got, I don't know if it's interesting or if it's just quirky, but the fact that Forest have had players for the opposition sent off, was it 4 times now since the restart? I don't know what it says about Forest really, but maybe they're quite good at riling up the opposition, perhaps. They're good at keeping. They're good at keeping calm themselves.
Alex Mighton, the 17-year-old kid, doesn't strike me as yeah. I mean, Alex Mighton doesn't strike me as the person who could do that.
No. I think just in general, maybe
very manly to take out the 17-year-old substitute. What about Bostock? Could he be the playoff hero? Asks Paul James. I don't think so, because he can't get near the team at the moment. Silver seems to be the odd man out quite often, with Yates getting in. He's obviously favoured in that kind of up and down kind of role, or can sit in the back four. I mean, Bostock seems to be out of the picture, doesn't he? More and more. Yeah,
I mean, he was on the bench last night. He wasn't in the squad, I don't think, for Preston. I've been impressed with Bostock whenever he plays. I think he's looked quite good. He's looked really handy. But again, there's just other players ahead of him at the minute. I think he's a good option to have if you've got someone who's struggling. If maybe you want to give Sam Bassal a rest, maybe, or Ben Watson a rest before the playoffs, then he's there and he's he'll come in and do a job. I can't see him breaking into the starting lineup though for the playoffs or for big games. I think he'll find it quite tough. He's just down the pecking order a little bit, and I don't think that's any reflection on him. I think it's more the players that are ahead of him. He's just got some tough competition for places. But like I say, I like him. I think he's a good player. I think he's looked pretty good whenever he's played. He's unlucky not to have played more than he has, I think.
As we look ahead to Sunday then against Barnsley, they're bottom of the table and kind of last chance saloon. I know they've got a game in hand. They have to win. It kind of makes them a dangerous opponent, but Forest need to. We were touching on old stuff here, but Forest need to win this game. Really, a draw gets them there. Gets them what they need playoffs wise, but they can't. I don't think they can go into the playoffs without a win since. Which shows how long it's been. My mind's gone blank. Whoever they last beat. Huddersfield?
Huddersfield, yeah. No, Bristol City and Huddersfield, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you can go into the playoffs and with any confidence if you haven't won a game. I mean, a game away at the team that's bottom of the league is pretty, it's a good chance, isn't it? It's the best chance you're going to get a win at this time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these next two games, you've got to go into both of those and think, yeah, we're going to win them. We've got to get victories from those two. Like you say, as much as I said before that form doesn't count when you're in the playoffs, I think you want to go into it with a win. You don't want to go into it thinking, we've not won for however many games and then expect yourselves to win in the playoffs. You need to have a little bit behind you. It maybe helps in a way that in these last two games, Forest are facing teams that have got something to play for, because it means there's a bit of an edge to the game. It means there's going to be something riding on it, and that can help lift them. It helps lift the players. They should be lifted anyway because they're fighting for a playoff place, but it means there's something there to aim for, and it means that the opposition as well are also going to want to come out and get something, and I think that's going to help Forest. They've struggled when they've come up against teams that just sit back. Barnsley can't afford to do that. Stoke can't afford to do that when they play them. So I think that will help Forest. It means that both teams are going to come out and they're both going to want to get something from the game. Might make it a bit more open, might make it a bit easier for Forest to play on the counter-attack, which suits their style. It's still a tough game, no doubt about it, but they need to go there and get a win. I think you definitely don't want to go into the last game thinking, we're still not sure about a playoff place. You want to get it sorted, you want to get it done, and you want to get a win behind you.
Yeah, and you want to be able to rest one or two players. You don't want to be, wheeling out a half fit or an 80% fit Joe Lolly at Stoke in the hope you get a point, or Lewis Grabban. Be nice to give him a rest. So yeah, it's an important game. Back at the top of the table, how do we think the playoff picture is evolving elsewhere? Because if I was a West Brom fan, I'd be worried. Forest v West Brom in the playoffs is starting to look a possibility again. I've said all along that I'd like Forest to play Brentford, but I think I'd revise that opinion now just based on form. I wouldn't want to play Brentford at all. Right. So, I mean, do you think, who's going to get the second automatic promotion spot, first of all? West Brom or Brentford? There's 1 point between them.
I think Brentford might snatch it now. I thought when the season came back that Leeds and West Brom were a done deal for the top two. I really didn't see anybody catching them, but Brentford are absolutely on fire. When you're on a roll like that, I think they'll be thinking they can do it now without a doubt. And 1 point, if you're West Brom, you're starting to get a bit nervy, a bit edgy. Players' mentality starts to change a little bit. I think Brentford might do it. And then if you're facing West Brom in the playoffs, you're facing a team that's feeling a bit flat because they've let that top two spot slip. I think they'd be there for the taking them, because the playoffs are a lottery, but equally, their confidence, you'd have thought, will take a bit of a hit because they've missed out on automatic promotion, what they expected to do. I'll probably have to look at the stats, but I don't think it's too often that you see a team that finishes third, that should be the third best team in the league, then gets promoted. Because more often than not, they're the team that's kind of stumbled a little bit towards the end and have missed out on a top two place. So, yeah, if I was West Brom, I'd be feeling a little bit worried. And if Forest do end up facing them, I don't think they've got anything to fear. I know they've not beaten them yet this year, but they've played well against them. The first time they played them was the first game, and I don't think you could read too much into that one. They played well, Forest, that day. The second game, again, Forest played well. I don't think there'd be too much to fear from West Brom if that is who they end up playing.
Yeah, out of all the opponents, I think they'd be my favoured one at the moment. But obviously, there's permutations and a lot can change even in two games. But Brentford's goal difference is plus 44, which is pretty ridiculous. That's 11 better than West Brom. So if they end up on level points, then yeah, that certainly favours them. Prediction for Barnsley then is the next game. Score prediction.
I think Forest will win. I do. I think it's going to be a bit of a tough, scrappy game. I don't think they're going to play the kind of football that perhaps we all want to see. But I think they'll get there. I think 2-0. If they can score early, Forest, that'll help. Takes the sting out of it a little bit. Gives them something to build on. They've not started well, really, in many games. So if they can get an early goal and then hopefully make sure of the 3 points, then they can relax a little bit and maybe the shackles come off. Then you can play with a bit more freedom and bring on players and give them a bit of a run out. And I'd be pretty confident of the 3 points, I think.
Last shout for any comments if anyone's watching on Facebook, because we're going to start winding down. I'll just read a couple out quickly, which you don't have to respond to, Sarah. Paul James, everyone was slating De Costa to start with as he hadn't done much with previous clubs, but he seems to be impressing now. I think that's true. Aaron Booth, the best chance we have to get the playoffs and maybe the final is that no one can go to Wembley. Do the fans make a difference? I don't know if that's right. I don't know. I think playoffs can go any way with any teams there. I mean, Wickham won as underdogs in the League One final. Northampton blew Exeter out of the water in League Two. I don't know if the fans played a part in that. I mean, once Forest get in the playoffs, touchwood, we'll do a good long podcast on Forest playoffs history, but it's not pretty. So I don't.
Probably best we don't.
It's not much of a spoiler there, really. No. It's like Titanic and icebergs, but. Yeah, I don't know if fans will make too much of a difference. One more just quickly. Nicholas Lansdale-Smith again. Do we go up, yes or no? That's a heart and a head thing. What do you think, Sarah?
Gosh, they've got a chance. They've absolutely got a chance, and I think it's gonna be difficult, but it's gonna be difficult for any team. I don't see why not. I'm reluctant to say one way or the other, but Forest have definitely got a shout, and that's what you want. That's all you can ask for at this stage.
I think you can make it a good case for them, certainly. I think you can make a better case than under Lamucci than other managers, in the fact that they're set up to be hard to beat. I can't see them getting blown out of the water. I mean, it has happened with Sheffield Wednesday and games like that, but I think they match up well against top teams, and the playoffs do suit them. I mean, obviously the heart says yes. I suppose the head says no if you were going to force me on to pick one, only because I think other teams have got deeper squads, and at the moment with games coming so fast and you're able to make 5 changes, and we've seen Forest have got this group of 15. I'm not sure they've got a group of 16 and 17 and 18 that the other squads might have. I think that might work against them in the end. So if push would come shove, Nicholas is just going yes or no in capitals. I'd say no, but there you go. I don't think it really matters. I don't think it really matters what I think. Rick Hempsell, Forest fans always singling out one player, not Diakabi's fault. I think that is true, Rick. Forest fans do seem to single out one player. I mean, Ben Osborne still gets debated on Twitter now, even though he's at Sheffield United and he's doing well. It's good to see Ben Osborne doing well, isn't it, Sarah?
It is. Yeah, it is. Especially, he's had to wait a bit and he's had to bide his time, but now he's got his chance. I'm really pleased for him to show what he can do in the Premier League. I think that's you want to see them do well.
Right, we'll finish pretty sharply. I think Forest will beat Barnsley comfortably. I think Barnsley are bottom for a reason, and I just fancy Forest to go there and win 2 or 3-0. 3-0. There you go. There's some.
Oh, you're very confident.
I might as well be. So, I think that brings us to a close. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll do this more often. Hopefully, you can obviously listen back to this later on Apple Podcasts and any other podcast format. Hopefully, you have enjoyed it. Thank you for all the comments, and we shall see you again soon. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.